Forget what you think you know about American history. The stuff they teach you in school is so boring and overused. Today, I'm going to show you some facts that are actually fun and interesting. So, break out your notebooks. School is in session. Hi everyone, my name is Erin, and whether I'm a new face on your screen or you've seen me before, welcome to the channel. So, if you're anything like me and you went through the American schooling system, I'm sure that you're used to hearing about the same things over and over and over again taught in history classes. Well, I think it's time for some new material. Today, I have some quirky unknown facts that are bound to be fun and interesting and might actually put a fresh spin on history as you know it. So, let's talk about them. So, starting off, we're going to throw back to about the Civil War time period, not too long after the Constitution had been drafted, and that's because we're going to be looking at one of its laws. Reason being is because this particular law says that it is unconstitutional for a state to form inside the jurisdiction of an already existing state, unless Congress and legislature from both parties agree to it. Apparently, West Virginia did not get this memo as it decided to separate itself from Virginia, and the whole ordeal is questioned on if it's unconstitutional or not. Now, like I said, we're throwing it back to about the Civil War time period. There was a lot of disagreeing point of views, and Virginia and West Virginia did not hold the same views, causing its separation. Virginia itself, however, did not like the idea of there being a split between the two, and actually sued West Virginia because it was unhappy about what had happened. Ultimately, the courts ruled in West Virginia's favor, and now we have the two states as we know it today. So, I'm sure we've all heard of the nursery rhyme London Bridge before, but did you know that it's an actual real bridge? Originally located in London on the River Thames, it was actually set for removal over safety concerns in the 1960s. Well, instead of actually fully demolishing it, they decided to put it up for auction. Robert McCulloch was the man crazy enough to actually buy this bridge and had it moved brick by brick to Lake Havasu in Arizona. Now, the reason why he did this was because he saw a great potential to spurring the growth of the Lake Havasu City area. And actually, it worked. There was an increased growth, especially as it became a tourist destination, because of course everyone wants to see the actual London Bridge. But hopefully, this nursery rhyme doesn't come true. Now, speaking of bridges, you might be familiar with this next one located in San Francisco. If you guessed the Golden Gate Bridge, you're spot on. Now, the Golden Gate Bridge turned 50, and they had a pretty big celebration that attracted the attention of a lot of people. So much so that there was about 300,000 people on the bridge at any given time. Now, over the course of the entire day, that's a lot of people, and it's no surprise when the bridge was starting to show signs of stress due to the sheer number of people that were there that day. The bridge actually started flattening, and it caused a lot of people to panic. They started throwing things off the sides of the bridge, including strollers, without the children, thankfully, bikes, and anything else that they feasibly could actually lift to hopefully lessen the load on the bridge. Now, after the scare of that day, the bridge did return to normal, and it was found out that it was originally designed to be able to do that under such heavy loads to make sure that it wouldn't break and fall apart. However, it was estimated that the bridge sagged about 7 feet that day. That's actually pretty decent for a solid structure like that. But thankfully, nothing happened, and it still stands to this day. Now let's take a second here and imagine that we're British royalty visiting America to meet with the President of the United States. Now that actually happened during Franklin D. Roosevelt's presidency term. The King and Queen ended up staying and spending about 4 days in New York and Washington, D.C., following a trip itinerary that President Roosevelt had planned personally. On the docket was a picnic at his own personal residency. Now, the day in question was pretty informal as they had just been to the pool and even met some of the president's friends and neighbors. Now, the real kicker hit when it was lunchtime as they had learned what would be served on the menu. What else do you serve the King and Queen of England other than hot dogs? That is exactly what President Roosevelt did, and it was a pretty big shocker to them at first. But King George was not adverse to trying them and actually really liked them. So much so that he said he'd be willing to come back for some more at any time. 50 really seems to be the golden number, as our next topic is about the Liberty Bell. Originally meant to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Pennsylvania Charter of Privileges, it remains on display today as a symbol of America's ideals of liberty and equality. Now, the bell, if you don't know, is inscribed with a Bible verse, but also with that is the word Pennsylvania. However, it doesn't appear as we might see when we think of that word, as it's missing an N. At the time, though, the spelling was accepted, as well as a few other variations. This variant of Pennsylvania also was on the Constitution. So, I guess, for the time period, it was actually the right way to spell it. Just don't let it bother you if you ever get the chance to see it for yourself. Now, this next one is actually about a House bill that sounds pretty ridiculous. We're going back to about the 1920s, where the availability of low-cost meat suddenly declined, and it was enough to leave the country in a form of panic. It also didn't help that at this time, a flower species known as the hyacinth was starting to spread uncontrollably in a couple of states down in the South. Now, with both of these issues being very prevalent at the same time and causing a huge stress amongst the people, someone decided that, well, the only solution was hippos. Yeah, that sounds about as crazy as it actually was. Officially called the American Hippo Bill, hippos were only the start of this bill. They wanted to bring them in as it would be a good way to take care of the wild plant population that was becoming very invasive and, well, also increase the supply of meat. Unfortunately, it didn't just end with hippos. The plan for the bill was also to target other species like gazelles, water buffaloes, and the dik-diks. Yeah, I'm not really sure how well that one was gonna go, but there was a lot of opposition with this bill, as well as a lot of support for this bill. Eventually, it was found that the invasive plant species was about as empty in caloric value as lettuces, and so they've reasoned that the hippos weren't actually going to be able to be used as livestock since they would constantly be losing weight. They would also create a huge ecological threat as, well, they create a lot of waste, especially in our waterways. This waste is strong enough to kill off the natural flora and fauna, and at the same time, make it more beneficial for the invasive plant species in question. Ultimately, the bill failed, and it might have been for the better. Could you imagine seeing a hippo on a farm? I know I couldn't. Alright guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this video about these quirky events that happened in US history. Let me know your favorite event, or if you have any you'd like to see a video on in the future. If you'd like today's video and you want to see more, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. You can also follow us on our socials for future updates. I'll catch you guys around. Until next time!